We were on page 4 or 5. Okay, let me share my screen. And okay, so today we're going to chapter 6 handout. Last week we did LIFO. No, we didn't. We did FIFO, first in, first out. We do LIFO and weighted average cost. Here on my camera. So hopefully we'll get done with those two this week. We might get into the cost, into the multi-step income statement, but realistically, I kind of doubt it. So anyway, so this will be for this week. We'll pick up where we left off. Okay, so chapter 6 handout, and this is the same handout we had last week, obviously. Let me see here. We ended up on page, we finished page 5. Did we do the LIFO one or not? Nope. Okay. All right. Let me change cameras so that I can do my calculator over here. All right. Last in, first out. This assumes the last ones in were the first ones we sold. Now, this is not most likely the actual flow of goods. Usually the first ones in are the first ones sold. And if you think about it, if you made a sale in, say, January 3rd, it couldn't have been from this layer, right? I mean, they weren't even there. So last in, first out, as far as the actual flow, is not, it probably is not very accurate. So the obvious question is, why do we use it? And here's the idea behind LIFO. I can't remember if I just told you guys about this last time or not. LIFO, last in, first out. The last ones in are the most current prices. So when you talk about people who really know about economics and all that kind of stuff, they will tell you that the most current price is the most accurate price. So when we use the last ones in, we're using the most current accurate price is to make the most accurate income. Now it's theoretical. It's not the way the goods actually were flowing in and out, but it is theoretically it's the best indicator of the income. That's why it's used in a lot of U.S. companies. It is not used anywhere else in the world. The United States is the only one that does LIFO. If it's international standards, you cannot use LIFO. They prohibit you from using LIFO. But it is used in United States standards, and it's used for your U.S. taxes also. So it's not some weird thing that no one ever uses. Actually, it's used quite a bit. And again, the whole idea behind it is that the income statement is more accurate. It's not the actual flow of goods. It's more of a theoretical thing that the last in will be the most current prices, and those will be the best reflection of what your real income is. So it's not, it has nothing to do with actual flow. Most likely, that's not the way it happens. But it has to do with theoretically the best income. The best estimate of the income. All right. So everything is, for sales is exactly the same. Sales are inchy easy. Sales sold 45 units. Price each, whatever, you know, whatever they handed us back when we gave them the units, that's our sales. So there is no real problem in the sales for something like this. Okay, so we get sales of $1,500. Okay, so we need the cost for 45 units. We sold 45 units, we need the cost of them. And we are going to go to the last ones in. So which ones were the last ones in? Which date? 1/1 or 1/10?
1/10.
Yep. These were the last ones in. So these are the last ones in. These will be the first sold or first out. So we're going to go to this letter. So we're going to say, okay, we got from we can get all 45 from there, right? There's 50 in there, so we can take all we only need the cost for 45. We don't need 50, so we'll just take the 45 that we need. And we don't need anything else. I am going to sneak a peek up here and see how I put that up. Okay. Okay. So we have inventory. Again, we're using the last ones in. Not because we actually think that those are the ones we sold, but because they're the better consider the better estimate of the price. Okay, and those are at 25. Okay, 45. 1,125. And so that will be our cost of goods sold. It'll be a little silly here because it's the only one, but cost of goods sold, it's called COGS. Okay, so cost of goods sold is that. Now, before I leave up here, I think I'm going to go ahead and fix this because we no longer have 50 in here. We now only have 5. Oh, I see. Okay, so let's get all these over. What did I do? uh, 40 or 50 minutes from now, I have this all worked out. You guys wait and see. Okay, so this is, let me see, highlight that. So this is what's left. We still have all of them from the first layer, and we still have all of them. So all from the first layer, and we have 5 of them from that last layer. So this is our what's left. This is what's unsold. This is our ending inventory, whatever those are going to come out to. Okay. So our gross profit is our sales. Minus our cost of goods sold. Gross profit. Sometimes called gross margin. They're exactly the same thing. All right. 675. So this is the dollars that came in. What we're paid for these items. This is what the items cost us. 11,125. And so this is how much we made on just those items. 675. Okay, I'm going to copy all of this. I don't need that. Okay, the ending inventory. Remember, this is what was not sold. Okay. Hey, get out of here, you. All right, so what was not sold, I'm going to cheat again and look it out. See how I did it up here. Ending inventory. Okay. So my headings on. All right, so we still have our beginning inventory. $80. Oh, 80, let's try it again, times 22, 60. And we have our inventory. We only have 5 units left in that one. Times 25. Equals 125. Those are our ending inventory. And this will be what would be on the books at the end of the month. So this will be our ending inventory. Now, you'll notice that this problem was very similar to, I think it's page 3. Page 3. Here. Yeah, you'll notice on page 3, it's the same problem basically, except we use the first ones in. First one's in where the first one sold. Oops, okay, so the 1800 was the same. And it's different. You'll notice that the gross profit here was 810, whereas it was 675 with the FIFO. And the ending inventory was 2020, so the gross profit was higher and the ending inventory was higher for FIFO. And we'll talk in a little while about why that is. But the you know, will these methods give you the same number? No, they won't. They'll give you different numbers because they're assuming that the ones that are sold are different. This one makes the assumption that the last ones are the ones that are sold. Again, trying to get the more current value. You know, the last ones in are the more current value, and so that would be a better one for your income, a better estimate of your income. Okay. Any questions on number 6? Okay, let's go to number 7. So number 7, do the easy part first, sales. Okay, 90 units times 35 equals 3150. And again, the sales are pretty easy. Whatever someone gave you for, whatever they paid you, that's the sales. Now comes the tougher part. Okay, we need the cost for we sold 90 units. So we need the cost for those 90 units. And which ones are the last ones in? What date? Oh, come on, you guys know this one. Which ones are the last ones?
21.
Yes. So these are the last ones in. So this is where we're going to start first. So we take all, we can't take all 90. We don't have all 90. We'll take 70 of them. Okay, so these are gone. We sold all of them. So then you find the cost of 20. So we'll go to this next layer. Now this next layer has 60 and we don't need all 60. We only need 20 of them. So we'll take 20 from that layer. That's the next, the last in. And at that point, we don't need anything. Okay, so the first layer is inventory 121. And by the way, you don't have to do this part right here. If you just want to jump down here and do it, that's fine. I just do it to kind of keep a track of, you know, what layer the inventory is going to come out of. And then we'll take the inventory. 113. No, that's not. It's 400. And by the way, you can always abbreviate it to COGS if you want. That's fine. You'll find it that way all the time. Okay. Okay, so our gross profit is our sales. Our gross profit, sometimes called gross income. No, not it's called the gross margin. I'm making up new accounting terms. Okay, so our sales would be that. Because will be that, and gross profit will be that. Oh, I never updated this up here. All right, this would be so we sold 70 of these. So this is, okay, new plan. So this is really our ending inventories. And again, this one, as you can see, is gone. So I am going to copy that. Actually, I'm going to cut it and paste it down here. Do the ending inventory. Okay. What do we still have left here? The inventory. We didn't touch that. That equals 8. Oops, no. 800. And I'm going to put one in that's going to look completely silly. To kind of show that it's gone. So this inventory is gone and it's never coming back. And the reason I say that is sometimes as soon as this inventory reappear, once this goes down to 0, it's gone. So it's never going to be back in. Okay, and so this will be our $1,400. Hey, that's not a number. Exclamation point. So that'd be our ending inventory. Now I'll tell you what one of the reasons why people don't like, I believe, why people don't like this method, why it's not allowed in some other countries. You'll notice what happens when you sell the last ones in. Unless you sell out all your inventory, the first ones in never get sold. Now, if you keep selling and only taking the last ones that are in, that inventory that's in the beginning inventory, it can just be sitting there for years, centuries, if it never gets sold. So you can have, your income statement's more accurate, but if you have the prices on your balance sheet might be from 1974. They might be from when your parents were born or something. That you can get prices that are really so old that they're not even relevant. And so that's one of the reasons why people a lot of times will not, I imagine, anyway, why, for instance, the international standards, they won't let you use the LIFO. So, well, look, you're going to have 40, 50-year-old prices on your inventory, on your balance sheet. It's going to be ridiculous. So, those first ones in, unless you happen to sell it down to the shelves, you have no more inventory in the store, you're going to have that problem that you are going to have inventory prices from very long ago sitting on your shelves. Well, let's do the last of these. The average cost. Okay. All right. Now let's see if you do this one. I'll do it on my own too. By the way, sales are the same things as revenue. So you might see this called revenue also. Same thing. And also make sure that you're only selling the number of units that you only find the cost for the number of units you actually sold. You have a bunch more units in here, but we only sold 300. So you're only going to find the cost for 300. Oops. Oh, by the way, when you're doing the cost on here, it doesn't matter what order you go in. I always do the last one because of the up here, but the order, as long as you are using the correct ones, that's fine. For instance, if you want to put the 250 first, either way. I'm going to clean this up a little bit. And again, these are gone, they're not coming back. So this is our inventory. Okay. Well, I'm going to calculate the gross profit. So down here, okay, so that's 1900 is how much we made on the I'm just selling the items. We got $3,600 of cash came in, so there's an asset coming in. We the inventory that went out at a cost $1,700, so that was an asset that went out. It wasn't cash, but it was inventory. They had a value of 1,700. That's what went out, and our gross profit was 1,900. And because this is LIFO, this is probably the best estimate of what the income really is. I'm going to copy this down so that I can have it on the same page. Okay. So our ending inventory. Okay, you do not have to put in the inventory that's already gone. I'm just putting it in there to show you that, yes, it is gone. Yeah, so this inventory is gone. It's never coming back. And again, the reason I mentioned that is that, oops, no, underline. Cross it out. The reason I mentioned it is, you know, sometimes all the students will sell the same thing twice, but once it's gone, it's gone. And same thing here. There's 250 that left that layer. That 250 is never coming back. This layer is going to be at 10, 10 units until it's sold. So this would be at the end of the period. The inventory would be have a total of 660. Okay, I want to talk a little bit about a few of the kind of nuances between LIFO and FIFO. Okay, we'll get to average cost here. Okay, so let's take FIFO first. For FIFO, do costs of things, do they, as time goes on, do prices usually go up or down?
Up.
Up, right? A car costs more today than it did 10 years ago and so on. So prices are generally rising all the time. there's a few things that go down in that, but for the most part, costs go up. So usually the first ones in are the less expensive. Okay, so because of this, so net income is usually higher for for FIFO. Okay, but my new type of costing. And not only that, so the cheaper ones are the first ones in. Those are the ones that are sold. So net income is usually higher because of the cheap. You sold the cheaper ones. The ending inventory is also usually higher because in the ending inventory, those that you didn't sell were the more expensive ones. Okay. I don't really think I need these on. Probably don't need these. Okay. So we sell the cheaper ones for FIFO. The ending inventory has more expensive ones, so the ending inventory is usually higher for FIFO. And as you can imagine, it's just the opposite for LIFO. Go ahead and copy. So last items inventory are usually more expensive. Let me get both of these on the same page. Let's see, at the same time. So net income is usually lower. And notice that the ones that we have left sold, they're the first ones that were in. Those are the cheapest ones. So the ending inventory is also usually lower. They could be a lot lower. They could be from 1972 or something. So FIFO usually has a higher income and higher ending inventory. LIFO is just the opposite. Usually the income's lower if there is inflation. The income is usually lower and the ending inventory is lower. Sometimes this can be much lower because it can have really old costs in there. So it's kind of like that's a little bit of a comparison of the two. Okay, let's go ahead and take a break. When we come back, we will do, we'll start on the average cost. What time is it? Let's be back at, I don't know. How about 7:05? How about that? Okay. I'll put the other one up in case people still want to look at that one. Okay, the next method we're going to use is the weighted average cost method. Mostly you'll see it called average cost, but it is a weighted average cost method. But again, that's just usually people shorten it. So we'll do that one. And that one, LIFO and FIFO, those have been around for, well, especially LIFO has been around for 400 years. And I know it sounds crazy, but they really didn't have calculators that you could actually buy until late 1960s. And in a calculator like this, would have cost $200 in the late 60s. So they really didn't have, and this is when you could buy a Corvette. A new Corvette was $4,000. So, the idea is that they really couldn't do average cost like we're going to be doing it until they got calculators. It was just, you had to doing it by hand was just too cumbersome. So that it really wasn't a method that was actually used until fairly recently, 1970s or whatever. And now with computers, it's the easiest one because all you have to do is get the total cost and the units, and you can figure out what the average is. LIFO, FIFO tend to be more difficult to do computer-wise because you have to do temporary variables for every layer of inventory. Whereas average cost, throw the units, throw the cost in a billionth of a second, it'll calculate the average. So that's what we're going to do next is the average cost inventory. And again, it's another method, and we'll talk about in a little bit here. Where am I at? Okay. Oh, wrong one. Average cost. Let me switch cameras here. I tried to set up my Zoom meeting so that the camera thing would be up. You can switch cameras quickly. I can't get it to do it. I don't know why. Okay, so average cost method. Well, let's take the easy one. The sales are same as before. Excuse me. See, the sales are so easy that it's boring me. I just yawned. Okay, so we sold 120 units at $40 each. Whatever that is, 4,800. Oh, turn the calculator on. It doesn't turn on. Okay. The calculator just works so much better when you turn it on. It just comes to life. All right, so 4,800. So same thing will be done a million kabillion times. Okay, now this is where it gets a little tricky. What we have to do is find the total number of units and the total cost of those units. So total units is 200. And now we have to do find the total cost. So I'm going to put times in here.
Okay, here are the facts as I see them. Con serves a dog.
Con does not serve a dog. That's just an awful stereotype. Chinese people don't really do that.
Sorry about that. Okay, so uh, 160 times 21 is some number. So 3,360. 40 times 25. It's 1,000, isn't it? Yep. So we're going to add those up. So these are the units available. So those amounts we could sell. We sold all of them. We didn't sell all of them, but we could have. Okay, so I don't like the way I did this. Hold on. Let me put it underneath here. These are available. Oops. So those are the units we could have sold. We could have sold 200 units. We didn't sell 200 units, but that's the most we could have sold. Okay, so we have 200 units were in our inventory. The cost was $43.60. So what was the average cost per unit? You can either blurt it out or put it into chat if you want. So see if you can figure out how many, what was the, we'll sit in awkward silence until someone figures it out. Oh, somebody's already figured it out. Yes, that's exactly right. Okay. Yeah. Oh, no. Yeah. So the so we had a total cost of. Let me get up here. So the total cost of 4260 divided by available units was 200. So 4360 divided by 200 equals $21.80. Okay, so this is going to be our per unit amount. Now, the nice thing is, once you get this number, you use it everywhere. So this is going to be our cost of goods sold. This is going to be our ending inventory. Okay, so we sold. And this is just going to be average cost, which is just that. You'll notice that there's no crossing out of, items that are sold, not coming back and all that kind of stuff. Everything that's sold at the cost was $21.80. 21.80 times 20. So this is your cost of goods sold. Well, yeah. So once you get this number here, it's that easy. I mean, it's. Okay, so this would be our gross profit. Okay, so our available units. They were 200. Yeah, we don't do that. We sold 120. Any inventory, in other words, that was not sold. 80. Where's it at? There we go. What's the average cost? So this will be our ending inventory. Oops. And this would be our, what we have in our books for ending inventory. So, you know, the nice thing about the average cost method is once you get the average cost, this is a little bit of a pain, but once you get this, the rest of it's just easy. Just multiply it, you know, 120, whatever you sold, times it by that, whatever you didn't sell, times it, and that's it. So these are the ones that were sold, cost of goods sold, apples are sold. All right, see if you can figure this one out. If you get it, if you get your average cost, either blurt it out or send it to me in chat. Oh. Yes, there was. I was trying to answer chat. Okay. Here. Now, in hindsight, I should have done this a little differently because this is they're not. It's not always going to be 200, obviously. It's an unhappy coincidence that I didn't pick up on what I was doing here. Okay, so we have 200 units available. Our cost, total cost is 4,300. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to be lazy, and I'm going to copy this just to save time. And it's almost the same number. I'm sorry, guys. I should have, you know. Yeah, this is a. I didn't mean to make these as close as they were. I'm not sure why I came up with that. I mean, I know I came up with 200 because that goes into just about anything. Yeah. All right, so this will be. Well, let's do the easy one. So this will be sales. Okay, that's the sales. That's the easy one. Oops. You find next week we'll probably do some problems out of the book. You'll notice that in the book a lot of times they won't even ask you what the sales are because they're easy. So those are cost of goods sold. So again, once you get that average cost number, the rest of this is, this is the hard part. But once you get it, it's the rest of this is pretty easy. There's no counting layers, which one's the last ones in, how many you sold, all that kind of stuff. You don't worry about it. How many you saw this layer or that layer or whatever. So again, we had 200 units available on unhappy coincidence. These are the ones that were sold. So we sold 150. And so that'll be our ending inventory. And again, so this this average cost method, and by the way, where it fits into the other one is between LIFO and FIFO. It's usually right in the middle. It's usually kind of splits those two. Yeah, so the average cost just keeps putting more items in there, and they keep averaging, and it just keeps going on and on and on. The nice thing is it boils it down to one number. So whatever you sold, that's the number. Whatever is left in inventory, that's the number. And look, we can fit all of them on one screen. See, sales, cost of goods sold, gross profit, and ending inventory. All on the same screen. Question on that thing? Okay, so I'm gonna kind of wrap this up a little bit here. Don't need that. So in the middle, so they'll usually have an income that is lower than FIFO, but higher than LIFO. And same thing with the ending inventory. It's usually lower than FIFO and higher than. This is wrong. How come you guys didn't tell me I was putting stupid stuff up here? It didn't change it. I copied and pasted and didn't change it. I'm sorry. Net income is usually lower for LIFO and lower for and ending inventory is lower for LIFO. Again, weighted average costing is right in the middle. So for kind of both of those things, whatever they are, it's sort of like this, Does it give you higher numbers? Oops, lower numbers, and average cost would be somewhere in the middle. Just for example, if this was 1,000, and this was 100, this would probably be somewhere around 950 or something. So this one's going to be pretty much between those two for whatever it is. The FIFO stuff's always higher, LIFO stuff's always lower, average cost be somewhere in the middle usually. Okay, these are the most common ways that you'll see people taking care of inventory. However, well, they're not the only ways. There'd be dozens of ways of doing inventory, but the actual guidance, the actual rules for inventory. There's only two. It must be systematic. And rational. So these are the actual rules for the inventory. There's only two of them. It must be systematic, they must be rational. And these methods are, well, first of all, they're systematic in that if I use FIFO and you use FIFO, let me put a definition here kind of. It's I am going to still can't bold it. Okay, so this will be, so systematic is repeatable with the same result, and rational just means that it makes sense. And all these methods do. FIFO is more of the actual flow of inventory. LIFO is theoretical that the to make your income more accurate. Does that make sense? And average cost is somewhere in the middle of those two, averaging the high and the low. But the solution is repeatable. So if I do FIFO and you do FIFO, we'll get the same number. Same with the other ones. And rational that they make sense. So these are really the only two criteria that they actually have for inventory. Another thing, not all inventory must use the same method. So you could use a different method for, they don't usually do this, but if you're selling shoes and socks, they're completely different. You can actually use different methods. And you say, well, wait a minute, what's a, what would we do that for? You probably wouldn't do it for shoes and socks, but you might do it for things like inventory versus maintenance parts or something like that. But you will put the method in the footnotes to the financial statement. Which we haven't talked about. So the footnotes to the financial statements, these go along with the financial statements. And in there, you'll put in your inventory method. Or methods if you have more than one. So not all of must use the same method. You can use different ones. Susan Sack's probably a bad example, but you could have, say, you could have, say, merchandise. Oops. Say uses LIFO, and you could have office supplies using so you could use merchandising, maybe use LIFO, office supplies, maybe use weighted average cost. And as long as you put that in the footnotes, down here in the footnotes, you say, okay, here's our methods. For merchandise, we use that. For office supplies, we use that. Now, generally, you can't switch without, from one to another without a good reason. But, you can certainly use different methods for different items. And one of the reasons why you want to do that is for the reader, people who read financial statements aren't stupid. They know that FIFO usually gives a higher net income and LIFO usually gives a lower one. So, if you tell them which one it is, they can make form their own opinion. All right. Let's see here. I'm going to stop sharing because I don't like to share. I think I'm going to stop there. We'll do the other part. We'll do the last part of it next class. So next class, we'll do the multi-step income statement. And we may do a problem out of the book. A problem or two, maybe. Either that or a practice exam. I'll have to look at the Let's look at the calendar. Let's see which one we are. But anyway, so next week we'll finish up with the cost of goods sold and the multi-step income statement, and we might do some more cost of goods sold ones, but or the practice exam. We're going to think about we'll probably do the practice exam at some point next week and get the exam out. Here's what we'll probably end up doing: the cost of goods sold one, which doesn't take that long. They do a problem out of the book, and then another then the practice exam, and that'll be it. Any questions? Okay, so those are the three methods we use: LIFO, FIFO, and average cost. They all have their benefits. They all have their things they're not so good at. But hopefully, you're realizing that this accounting stuff is more of an art than a science. That your income can be different depending on what method you use, and and also one of the hardest things you can ask them, someone can ask you is, if you're in business, well, what does it cost? What does it cost? Just what does it cost? Well, which ones do you want? Which ones are you talking about? The ones that I bought 3 months ago, or the one I bought yesterday? It can be fairly difficult, to tell exactly what the cost of something is. Okay, any questions? All right, well, I think we'll call it a night. Nothing due for next week. Next week I'll send out the test, we'll have that to do. And we'll probably end up doing a problem and certainly finishing up the handout. So, okay, well, have a good night, guys.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.